Hi, welcome to yet another episode of Be Positive with Ambi Parmeshwaran on etbrandequity.com portal. So today we are going to take a journey, a very interesting journey through candies and biscuits and chips and finally to computers. So we have with us Amit Doshi. Hi Amit, welcome to the show.
Hi, Ambi. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thanks, Amit, for joining me on this Be Positive show. The show is about tracing your fabulous career journey from selling candies to selling biscuits to now selling laptops and mobile devices and computers. Indeed, a wonderful journey. I'm sure you have a lot of interesting lessons to share with our viewers. The show, as you know, is about the importance of being positive. It's about irrespective of what the world throws at us. So before we get into your career, I want you to take the viewers through a kind of a memory ride. Something about where you started, where were you as a child, and I noticed that you've done your schooling, Jamshedpur. So is there a Tata Steel connection? So can you take us back to your childhood and walk us through?
Wow, that's a lovely, a lovely one. Yeah, see, look, Ambi, anyone who grows up in Jamshedpur has a Tata Steel connection, irrespective of whether their parents are working at the Tata company or not. It's just amazing to grow up in that town and see how Tata is very much in the fabric of the town, in the fabric of day-to-day living, the culture, all of it. And it's just been a great example for every one of us. But I've had the fortune of actually experiencing it as a resident of that city. Growing up, lovely memories. It's a small town, but a very close knit town. Lovely infrastructure, lovely facilities, amazing schools, and the Tata Group for years has provided amazing opportunities. One of my earliest memories is actually to be a part of this event that the Tata Group organized, which was to inaugurate what is now called the JRD Tata Stadium. It was a world-class facility at that time, and all of us did our little drill as school kids, and that was my earliest memory. And as a young kid, got an opportunity to see some of the best European football teams play in Jamshedpur, because
Yeah,
there used to be an invitational.
Tata had this football academy, right? And I think they even
Absolutely.
brought Pele to play in India, if I am not mistaken.
That I don't know of. Not much of a football fan as I grew up, but yes, the Tata Football Academy was one of the best outfits at that point in time, and that team actually used to play internationally. It was quite renowned. So some lovely memories growing up in that town, and it was just the whole vibe, the culture, an extremely diverse place. You had colleagues in school who came from very different backgrounds, and it was an extremely multicultural place. So some really special memories.
Almost national integration was happening in Jamshedpur in its own way, right? So I don't know whether you're aware, but uh, Tata Steel introduced maternity leave for its women workers before it was introduced by any other company in the world. In all other companies,
Really.
when a lady becomes pregnant, she has to take a maternity leave, the salary was cut, right? And it was the Tata Steel which did it for the first time in the world. So now, of course, companies like yours may be offering paternity leave as well, right? So it's gone to the other extreme. But to the Tata Steel, in fact, which did that. So from you must have done well in your studies. So I don't want to ask you your credit point average and all that. But how then the jump to Pune to do computer science? So what happened? Who
Yeah,
someone triggered you?
yeah, that's an interesting one. I didn't quite get the credits that I wanted, because in that cocoon, I also had like an IIT dream that a lot of people have. And Jamshedpur was quite reputed. Almost 100, 150 kids from that town used to go to an IIT every year. But one of the subjects that caught my interest early on in school was computer science. And frankly, the choice to go to Pune was, again, to pick from limited choices that I had at that point in time. It wasn't that I had a long list and I could have exercised options. But I found that that was a subject that I, at that point in time, made sense. It seemed like a good opportunity among what was available, and I took that chance. Pune was again. I thought Pune was a very interesting phase in my life because it was not just about studying in college, studying computer science, but it was also this transition that I got to make from a relatively small place, a relatively small town, to a large metropolitan. So just to
So I
get
think,
exposed,
yeah, so just to come in here,
yeah,
Amit, I think I have heard this story from many people that Pune is seen as a convenient middle point because, people from North India find it very difficult to send their children to Chennai or even those days Bangalore or Hyderabad because they're seen as very Madrasi, right? But Pune somehow was not as evil as Mumbai. It was
yeah.
more a genteel crowd. And it was also a place where you could get your, dal roti and chawal and all that. And it was in its own way cosmopolitan, just like Jamshedpur. So probably you didn't find it too difficult to settle down in Pune, get a lot of new friends, and anything interesting in Pune?
I think just memories of being by oneself, friends, of course, but unlike a hostel, we used to live in an apartment, and as 18, 19-year olds, that was really the first experience of what does it mean to run an independent home. And
How did
when
you how did you pick your roommates? Were they all friends from Jamshedpur or were
one
they?
of actually a couple of them were, and one of them then chose to pursue an engineering course, so he went back, and then we found someone, so the two of us, and then one more person we found from our class. So it was, he was from Bombay, so it was just the three of us. And then of course, as things go in school, in college years, roommates keep changing. A couple of us kind of stayed, then we had new ones coming in, etc. But that was an interesting experience because and looking back, and we were absolute disaster, as you could imagine, and one couldn't looking back, you can't imagine how one could ever live like that. That was just far from civilization, as far from civilization as it gets. But it really gave me the confidence to be by myself, make my own decisions, and also to self-regulate and build whatever discipline you wanted to build, because there were no artificial constraints. There was a lot of distraction, but you had to find your own way. So that was interesting. And like you said, Pune is a multicultural place. So got to meet very interesting people from very different backgrounds, and really loved the vibe of the place.
So did you have any role models during your school days or during your college days who kind of made a lasting impression on you, at least uh, to some extent, on your career or on your educational choices? Anyone?
A lot of them actually, and from very, very different backgrounds. Been a cricket fan forever, like every other Indian is. So very, very early on, like a lot of us, Sachin Tendulkar made a huge mark, and saw him as a young boy right from the start. That was There are two people who I really looked up to just for the craft and the skill and the way they honed it. Sachin was one, Shane Warne was the other. The two of them were absolute cricket heroes. And then as one started knowing a little more about the world, I was fascinated by while I was a science student, I really took a lot of interest in the media, and television had just broken in. The satellite television came in 92, and suddenly you had this huge exposure to very, very different content.
What
And
about
and
your
I
what about your family or your teachers or your professors? Anyone specific who had an impression on you?
Uh, a lot of teachers over time. I don't know if I can honestly pick one. They all helped and nudged me along as I went through the journey. But my father, for sure, he's a garment trader. He still goes to, he still runs his garment business, and he's what I picked up from him very early on is just sheer work ethic. I think that is something that I've been told is something that I really stand for. That's what I've been told, and when I look back, it really comes, I think, from my father. Just the
You
sheer
didn't want to
diligence
go,
of turning up every day.
so you didn't want to go into the business? He didn't call you, he didn't pull you in?
He used it as he used it very well as reverse psychology. So every time I wouldn't score well and I would be down. I was a reasonable student, but I would go in and he would be like, "But why are you worried? There's nothing to worry about. I'll just make sure my staff reduces by one and you can join the
Ah,
store." And I've spent countless days, by the way, at the store by him as a young child. There are times in the year when traffic really picks up. You have a lot of footfalls, and and in a family business, you've got to have all hands on the deck. So I've been by his side a lot of times, and being there, I was very clear that that's not what I want to do. So that really helped.
but Amit, in your case, it has worked differently. But I know when I speak to my Marwadi and Gujarati friends, one of the things they do for their children to come into the business is to get them exposed to the business at a young age.
Exactly.
So that they don't have aversion towards the family business. So they take them when they're teenagers, give them some small jobs, so that they slowly start enjoying. In your case, probably you said, yeah, this is not for me. Same with me. I mean, it's not,
But Ambi, look. Here's the thing. I am a Gujarati, so while I grew up in Jamshedpur, I grew up in a Gujarati family, and while there was, very very clear focus on education and academics, they were also very clear that hey, there is a plan B in case there something doesn't work out. B, you couldn't have just lounged around if you were not, in a summer vacation.
yeah.
If I distinctly remember some of the sharpest conversations I've had with my mom, they would be, about me lounging around and she quickly coming in and saying, "Hey, I mean, what are you doing here? If you don't have
Oh,
anything to do, be with your dad, spend some time."
ah,
And I
Kapila-
I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. And till now, the dislike that I had to go there is well known in the family.
Okay, so good. So interesting. So now you finished your schooling, you've done your computer science and all that, and then this jump to NMIMS. Was it because you didn't like computer science, or was it because you found MBA to be a better path to traverse?
I just thought that look, I liked computer science, and if not for if I hadn't taken up management, I would have most probably done a post graduation in computer science and gone the software engineering way. It's a lovely discipline, absolutely amazing discipline. And while I never ever got uh, into really the sophisticated end of that discipline, it did help shape some of my thinking, logical reasoning, just how you go about solving problems, a lot of that. So I really enjoyed that. But I also started. I didn't want to be be someone who only is trying to design a part of the ship. And obviously over time I wanted to have a shot and opportunity at the bigger picture, and I just felt that management might provide me that opportunity. By the way, Ambi, the other reason that drew me to NMIMS very interestingly was the course that you taught, which is the advertising and communications course. And that was the first reason that I applied to NMIMS. I thought that among advertising, there was something about advertising and communication that drew me in. I mean, go back to even my late school years, and where I was infatuated with the media scene post satellite television. So
Yeah.
there was something that was simmering.
So in NMIMS, did you take the Staka course? They had a special integrated marketing communication course where I used to teach. But I think you did the other course, right? You did
I
the
did the other course. So I got into I applied for the Staka course because at that point in time, I think there were only 2 or 3 institutes who were offering a core advertising communication course. So there was Mica, there was Symbiosis, there was NMIMS. I just thought
so
that was an interesting
so
course.
Amit, you need to let me tell some historical facts for the viewers because it makes it interesting. Uh, Staka course is called a Staka course because STACA stands for the Standing Committee on AdAsia, right? So there was an AdAsia conducted in Delhi, and there was a surplus which came out of that. I think some 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs or something like that, which the various bodies which organized AdAsia gave to NMIMS saying, look, we're giving you this money. Can you start a course which is focused on advertising? And that's why this Staka, it was called the Staka course. People probably don't even know what that Staka stands for. And it ran for almost 20 years, right? And then it had, good people like you applying and joining. And I remember we used to recruit regularly from the Staka course. So the entire industry took it upon himself. Like, these are our people. We need to train them. A lot of us used to go and teach. And then we used to recruit, people from there. So you actually joined Staka. So that's interesting.
No. So what happened was, okay, by the way, I didn't know the full form of Staka, never curious enough to find out why was, but I thought Staka was like the internal name that used to be, that the course used to be called by at NMIMS, but that's a really interesting story. I didn't know up till this point. So I applied for Staka. I got through that course. And when I went to the institute but I had applied to all courses, including the flagship general management course. And when I went for the interviews, that's when I got to know a little more about that course. And my cutoff, my score was such that I could have applied to all. And I think just the middle class insecurity took over, and it just seemed like a safer bet to. And I was like, if I want to go into advertising, I can maybe still do the general management course and try my luck at that, but it just opens maybe more doors. The other thing that was interesting was that the general management course also offered a specialization in IT and systems. And given that my interest in computer science was still there, I thought that could make for a great combination, marketing and systems. And that's what I actually did for the next 2 years. So when I look back at my MBA mark sheet, I've actually done more systems courses than marketing courses because I really wanted to get into the IT business side of things.
So if you remember, go back to your NMIMS days, what would be some of the courses which you really enjoyed? I know that you attended Professor Sunanda Ishwaran's course. She's an old friend. And any other courses which come to your mind, which you...
There are 2 or 3, and these are names you would know very well. The one that I really found interesting was organizational behavior, that used to be run by Professor Sandhya Karpe. Then the other one, the economics courses, again, I enjoyed. We had fabulous faculty, Dr. Mankad, Dr. Rakesh Singh, some stellar professors. So economics courses I really enjoyed. And then the systems courses were not as engaging, I remember. But again, quite odd that I really didn't enjoy many of those marketing courses. But as I told you, I didn't have the opportunity to take your course. I heard about you from my colleagues that you must come down, and I know it was Saturday. I think it was part laziness and part the other work schedule that prevented me from getting
No,
there.
I had a great time teaching your friends. I think I started with advertising and sales promotion. Then I kind of moved to brand management, and I actually taught, I think, two batches brand management. And what I used to teach, I converted it into a book. It was good. It was enjoyable teaching. And fortunately for me, some of them ended up joining FCB Ulka, and they did brilliantly well. So good. So computer science, and then MBA, and then to selling candies. What happened?
Absolutely. I mean, I always thought that I would join an IT company, and it just took 10 more years to get there. That's really and the route was obviously long winded and went through the candy and the biscuit land. So it
Yeah,
started with,
so, yeah, so I
sorry?
just need to tell, the viewers should know that Amit Doshi's first job was with Perfetti. Now, Perfetti, I think, is the number one candy company in the country and one of the leading candy manufacturers in the world. They have multiple brands. So it's quite interesting that a computer scientist and an MBA ends up joining Perfetti and starts working the market, selling candy jars shop to shop. So it must have been an interesting experience. Tell us about it.
100%. So started off with summers. Didn't find many interesting opportunities in IT, and Perfetti came along, and Perfetti was overhauling its distribution at that point in time, and I remember that batch. They hired a lot of summer interns because they wanted actual groundwork to be done by summer interns. So it sounded like an interesting opportunity. Went straight from Bombay to Bangalore. Day one, day one we're briefed. Evening of day one, we're told the buses that we need to take. My bus was going to land me in Warangal in Andhra Pradesh at that point in time, and this is summers. So and Andhra Pradesh takes summer seriously. The task was very simple. The task was to find out without getting into too much detail, it was to really audit distribution efficiencies in that market. Now, Perfetti is a company that believes in hands-on. At least at that point in time, really believed in people rolling up sleeves and getting into details. And one couldn't have done a good audit till one wouldn't have, like you said, made those calls on the smallest of small shops. And Perfetti's calls norm was about 60 calls a day. So about
60.
60,
60.
yes, 60, 60.
So again, just to get the viewers, kind of perspective, we should say that, for example, a medical rep makes about 11 calls on doctors a day, and most FMCG product companies insist on something like between 30 to 40 calls a day. Obviously, you're a candy, right? Candy is available everywhere, right? So, but still, 60 seems a little draconian.
It does. It did feel initially, but as the representative of the company in that town, uh, one had to lead by example. So if you're not doing 60 calls, you couldn't have asked the distributor or the distributor salesman to do it. So initially it was tough, but over the next 1 week or so, it got in. I somehow got into that rhythm, and I really enjoyed it for some reason. And if I had to make connections, I would make the connection back to being at my dad's garment store and what it really meant to. So again, I was in a place where I again didn't know the language really well.
How did
Didn't
you
know.
manage, yaar? Warangal in summer must have been 45 degrees, right?
Worse, it was tough. It was tough. And look, we were again, the Perfetti units are not like vans. They're auto rickshaws. And again, the kind of trade you're meeting is very different. So for a Hindustan Unilever, a key account, or a Britannia, a key account would be this large kirana shop or maybe a departmental store. You don't understand that for a candy company, the maybe the biggest pawn shop is like a key account. They're selling by the tons. It's not a lot of the kiranas would not even stock candies. So you're also dealing with trade which is very, very different and challenging. uh, Looking back, I think it was just a lot of adrenaline, enthusiasm, and curiosity to learn, and also maybe this bit of hunger to make a mark. But it was just a combination of that. And then once you started to get a hang of how does the FMCG distribution trade works, it can be quite intoxicating. It can be quite interesting. So that's what got me going. So 60 days, maybe out of that, you take Sundays off. So maybe about 50, 52 days of hard market working. Not 60 calls every day, but certainly not less than 50 calls on any of the days. Uh, you do the day, you take stock, you file the report, you send those were days when IT wasn't, FMCG companies were not really connected with IT. There were no PDAs where you could like key in orders and such. So the day would begin making calls. So I'm at the distributor point before the distributor point begins, because that's again how you show that you're serious about market working. I end the day at, let's say, 3:30, get to the distributor point, we do a tally, we do a conversation, and I need to file the report the very same day. So from there, I go to the post office, you put that report in a self-addressed envelope and send it to the head office. And that continued for 2 months. But that was like an amazing experience.
So lovely. So after that, what? You got a pre-placement offer even before you completed your summer project, or what?
Officially not, but it seemed like it was, because the interview process seemed very. It seemed as if I had done good work. It was quite evident. And what also had happened, Ambi, is after my summers, there is this national summer project competition that happens. That's run by this institute in Mumbai called NITI, the National Institute of Industrial Engineering. They run a very renowned summer project competition, and I had the opportunity to present my project in front of industry, veterans, and won that project competition. I think that also made a mark on the organization. I think they somewhere took notice of the project having got profiled. And
So, in short, what was your finding in the project?
what Perfetti believed in at that point in time, they wanted to expand distribution and certainly in lower tier towns. And they believed that if instead of one salesman going into the market, you had two salesmen going into the market on different days, you could sell more. Now, that was a really unconventional hypothesis at that point in time, because conventional notion said that a retailer had only X amount of money for you as a company. So irrespective of whether you go one time or two times or three times, you may get the same business. But Perfetti's belief was that if I go in two times in a week with two different salesmen, with two different sets of products. So the range of products is split into two. Then you can get more lines into more SKUs into the shop. You can get more out of the shop's wallet. And the job was to find out whether that hypothesis actually plays out in real world or not.
Did it play out?
It did, and that was fascinating. It did. So it at least in the market that I worked, it helped raise business. If I still remember, to the tune of 30, 40 to anywhere between 30 to 40%. It obviously required extra investment from the company in terms of subsidies, in terms of manpower support, but that totally changed the company's growth trajectory. And then later on, Perfetti, I still remember when I ran the Bangalore sales for them. In Bangalore, we went from 2 units or 2 salesmen calling in a week on a shop to 3 salesmen calling with 3 different range of products. So we kept pushing the envelope on distribution.
So you joined from NMIMS, you joined Profetti in sales, and you spent what, 2 years there?
A very brief period there. I used to run sales for Bangalore Metro, Bangalore City. I did that briefly, and then I found this opportunity to join Britannia, which and the Britannia opportunity was very. It was promising to be very enriching, because Britannia was offering Chennai City as a business. Now, for Britannia, the state of Tamil Nadu is a huge business, and Chennai City is like the fortress.
I know the milk bikis magic in Chennai. I remember.
Absolutely, no one's been able to decode that. Why?
For for ITC, we tried a lot of campaigns to fight Tamil Nadu milk bikis, including creating a special ad with Surya, film star, and all that. But I don't think we
also with Rajnikant.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. So you spent what, 7-8 years in Britannia?
Close to 9 years. Did a bunch of roles. Ran sales for Chennai City, which was again an interesting experience. Didn't know the language, but a superb team that I could rely on. When and modern trade was just starting to take roots. So my head of sales then, Sridhar, gave me this opportunity to then see if I can help build the modern trade business. And I had two options then: to go the conventional way, take up a brand manager role, or to stay longer in sales and be a part of a sales development team. And I felt that for my age, I wouldn't have got the modern trade opportunity so early. And I thought that was a fascinating opportunity to cut my teeth into a new business and build something from scratch. So did that for close to 3 years, and then changed tracks and moved to marketing.
So, Vinita was the MD at that time, right?
Yes, Vinita was the MD for most of my stay at Britannia.
Okay, great. So, anything interesting from your Britannia days which you want to share with us? Something in sales?
Lots. I mean, 9 years is a long time, and Britannia is a fascinating company to be in. And again, when I left Britannia, I left with a heavy heart. A bulk of my initial thinking about business, about building brands, all of that has got shaped there. Amazing set of leaders, people that I learned the ABCs of sales and marketing from. The most interesting experience was in Chennai, and again when ITC launched, right? And Milk Bikis, as you know, Milk Bikis is this whole category of milk biscuits, so-called milk biscuits, and that was the blue pack. And we saw a lot of aggressors coming into the market. And at that point in time, Britannia used to have a 70% plus share in Chennai. That's unheard of for most categories, most companies. It's unreal. And when I took that job, I just didn't know how one could sustain that level of share. And that's when we saw a lot of aggression from new competitors like ITC. And one of the projects I still remember was to paint the town blue. And it was really like that Coke versus Pepsi kind of situation. And I remember uh, my team just painted the town blue. You go to a small shop, you go to a large shop, and you look behind the shopkeeper, and that whole place is blue. It's all milk bikis. And that was just our way of blocking competition and and really demonstrating the dominance that we had. So we went through our loss of share, but eventually the stronger brand stayed. The stronger brand did well, bounced back, and so that was interesting. But just to be in Chennai, just to be with colleagues who took my own time to connect with, who I took my own time to build a bond with, despite the barriers of language, was just absolutely amazing. And I'm still in touch with quite a few of those team members. They
So,
became friends for life.
so did they accept Gujju from Jamshedpur
I'm
coming?
sure it took. I'm sure it took its time, and not just because I was Gujju from Jamshedpur, but I had my own way of running a business and running teams as a young person. Not the sometimes not the most ideal way, but it was just a tremendously amazingly rich process to learn. But so yeah, I mean, a lot of issues at the start. It was not easy to blend in, but I think we managed to do it quite quickly because I again took a personal interest in understanding the culture, the nuances, the language. And though I cannot speak Tamil, I can, if I'm watching I can understand the movie without subtitles. So I took that challenge on to learn the language, and I thought that really helped build a lot of bridges.
And then from Britannia to Lenovo, how did that happen?
So Britannia, the second half of Britannia stint was in marketing. I started with an innovation role, and then handled what we called at that point in time the adult health
How many,
category.
so Amit, how many years did you spend in sales in the beginning part of your
Half and
career?
half. So sales was about 4.5 years, and 4.5, 5 years. Marketing was 4 years. So
So
about half
was
and
that
half.
Perfetti? The Perfetti was about 2 years, right?
Perfetti was, yes, 1.5 to 2 years, 1.5 years.
So Interesting. I think for the young viewers, everyone says I want to be in marketing, and everyone wants to get into brand management early part of their career. But the good thing to do is to stay out of marketing for at least 5 years of your career, right? I mean, to get your sales, sales understanding right before you go into marketing. So, which is what you seem to have done a copybook stuff, right? 5 6 years, solid sales experience, general trade, modern trade, blah blah blah. And you go into marketing, and then you spend 5 years in marketing, and then you now move to. So, how did the Lenovo thing happen?
Well,
Is it
so by I think the four years I spent in marketing, the shape of marketing had just it had started to change a little bit. Onset of digital technology coming in a bigger way, and I just felt that there were two three things at that point
so?
in time.
Did you go to Lenovo to buy pads for your salespeople, and they say, hey, this guy is a smart guy, let's hire him?
I wish it had happened that way. I really wish. So what? So tech was an interesting. Tech was always lingering at the back of my head, and that's really how connections happened. If you remember, more systems courses at MBA than more marketing courses. So there was generally a lot more gravitation towards technology than my average colleague. And I really started tasting digital marketing first at Britannia, where there wasn't much of digital marketing infrastructure, but the brand that I handled, NutriChoice, was this premium niche brand, and it called for digital presence. And I got an interesting opportunity. Neeraj, who was the chief operating officer, Neeraj Chandra, and Anu Narsimhan, who was my boss, they gave me this interesting opportunity to build a digital system, to build a digital strategy for my category. And then also they also said, hey, the company could also pick up and learn from there. So it was a bigger opportunity than just limiting digital
So quick,
capability for my
quick
brand.
question. Yeah. So quick question, Amit. So when you say NutriChoice had a more digital focus, was it that you spent all your marketing money on digital platforms, or was it uh, 50-50 in traditional media and 50% in?
No, it was still not that high. It was still not that high. But that was the time, if you remember, Ambi media agencies would come and say you should have 5% of your spend going into digital at least. That was the time. And at that point in time, NutriChoice would have been 15-20%. So it was still not but we wanted to build a community. We wanted to build presence on digital because as health was something that was
Yeah, I
proactive
like
health was a
products.
really, really small
These are those,
phenomenon then.
these are those big biscuits, right? Slightly
Yes,
bigger.
yes.
Yeah, I used
The
to love them.
digestives, the 5 grain biscuits.
Yeah, I used to love them. Great products. Great products.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that's when I started tasting digital, and I figured that there's something interesting brewing there. So there were two, three things I think that made my there's three clear factors. One is I wanted to cut my teeth into digital. Second was opportunity to work in a global organization. Britannia was very, very India centric, India focused. Now, of course, it's expanded into many markets, and I felt that for my long term growth, that would really be useful. And the third was I was always passionate about technology. So and for me, smartphones, computers, all of them used to be toys. And then to say, oh, you get to run the toy store or be part of the toy store was just being in a candy shop as a kid. And Lenovo was at a very interesting journey because they were moving from just being a PC company to what we called a PC plus company, which is to also launch smartphones and tablets. And I realized that would be amazing to be at a company which gives me exposure to all three categories. Something that's really deep rooted as computers, something that's fast growing as smartphones, and something that's absolutely new as tablets. And that combined with the fact that it is a global giant in technology, that it would have given me exposure to multiple cultures, given me an opportunity to work with very, very different, diverse talent was a big draw. And by the time it fructified, it was just no brainer that I wanted to join Lenovo.
No, I think, just for the viewers to know, Lenovo is the number one computer maker in the world. They are bigger than HP, they are bigger than Dell, they are bigger than Apple, of course. Uh, In fact, Lenovo bought the curious coincidence. Last episode we did was with IBM's Deepali Nair, and interestingly, Lenovo bought IBM's PC and laptop business, and I think you still call them ThinkPad, right? That's the
Yes,
name.
it's ThinkPad is the brand, and
So,
ThinkPad.
a little bit of advertising anthropology here. In fact, the brand name ThinkPad for IBM actually came from a very old advertising slogan for IBM, which was "Think." Right? Just think. That was the original
Okay.
advertising slogan for IBM. So they used to say "think," and they used to actually have "think" as a caption. So they used that "think" and they launched a range of laptops called ThinkPads, and I think you still market them, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's our flagship brand, and we're all very, very proud of what ThinkPad used to be, the icon that it has been. And if you see, look at the tech industry, you can count on your fingers the number of technology brands that have lasted for and thrived for that a longer time. I'm talking to you on a ThinkPad right now, and it's just the most. So if you haven't used the ThinkPad, you must. It's an amazing experience to use the ThinkPad. So ThinkPad was, and Lenovo, you're right. And the other interesting thing about Lenovo is today Lenovo is perhaps the only company in the world that makes everything, right from smartphones on one end to servers on the other end, and has presence in the global presence that it has in 160 plus markets. So that
And
makes
I think
Lenovo extremely unique.
and I think you bought over the Moto business, right? So the Moto G and those brands
Yes,
are also with you.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So the Motorola brand now is part of the Lenovo family for 5 years plus now, and has brought to the market some really, really cool innovations, like the first one of the first phones with foldable screens, which was just for the last couple of years.
Yeah, and so now think back. I mean, now just pulling back, you must have during your career had enough challenges, enough issues which you had to overcome. So, and we realized that there is a strong power of having mentors and coaches. So, can you think back and say, like you mentioned, Neeraj Chandra, you mentioned a few other names, but can you think back and talk about one or two people who've actually been a mentor to you to help you overcome the struggles you had and stay positive?
I've had very, very fortunate to have some amazing managers over time, some amazing managers, and that's something that I really feel blessed about. I would say the first manager at Britannia, a gentleman called Sridhar Panchikar, he then went on to run sales for Britannia nationally. He was I'm still in touch with him. He's always been an amazing mentor. He's had a very, very unique, he has a very unique style of handling and managing people. I think he gave me the confidence that I needed at that point in time as a young manager, and always had my back when I was taking risks in a market like Chennai, where there was also a culture difference that I was about to that I had to overcome. Uh, and he just had a way of handling managing people that you wanted to learn from, that you wanted to imbibe. Though in my early years I was a very different manager than what Sridhar was. And then had the opportunity to work with Anu Narasimhan, who shaped some of my foundational thinking in marketing. So learned my absolute ABCDs from her, and a lot of my foundational base level thinking on how I really go about writing a brief, addressing a business challenge. A lot of that comes back. So I find myself routinely referring to the notes that I would have taken from her, and shamelessly reproducing them for my team, for my agency partners, and so on. And then at Lenovo, I've worked with Bhaskar Chaudhary for almost 8 years now. He was the India CMO when I joined Lenovo as the head of consumer marketing. And then I had the opportunity to succeed him as the India CMO. He's with Lenovo as the Asia Pac CMO today. again, learned what I learned from him were nuances on creative development, uh, just uh, a, just a lot of self-awareness. How do you go about building self-awareness? How do you relate with people a lot better? How do you deepen collaboration with teams? Tons of stuff. So I wouldn't say one particular person, but everyone has had a tremendous mark. Just to see leaders like Vinita, see leaders like Neeraj from a distance was a privilege to be in the same meeting room, and they never had any hierarchical distance. So it was very commonplace in Britannia for Vinita or Neeraj's office to reach out to a young brand manager, get them into a conversation, even in the absence of their managers, and have a very heart to heart conversation. And even those 15-20 minutes would just leave you feeling absolutely different, and shape you so differently and so very fast. And the other thing, Ambi, that I really again feel extremely privileged about is to have been mentored by, coached by, shaped by two amazing women leaders in both Vinita and Anuradha. And it just changed. It just gave me a very different worldview of how different leadership styles can be. And till that time, I hadn't really been exposed to many women leaders. So it just that again is something I've been really lucky about.
Oh, great. I mean, we've featured several women leaders in our own show, and we try and make sure that our gender balance is much better than the normal gender balance in the boardrooms of India, which anyway is pretty pathetic. But we are doing our little bit. So thank you for echoing that. It's such a wonderful comment to say that, I had great women leaders and they added so much to my career that may not have come from maybe a male leader. I mean, of course, males are good, but being males ourselves, we can't decry our own roles, but women readers are. So we're at the last few minutes of our show, Amit. So let me ask you, what is your favorite confectionery product? I have these questions which I curate for every guest I have. So what is your favorite confectionery product?
Look, confectionery for me is not a simple word, right? So are you talking about candies, or are you talking about chocolates? Or are you talking
Whatever.
about gums? What are you talking about?
Whatever. You tell me your go-to product when you
uh,
have a sweet tooth problem.
Dark chocolate always.
All right. You're become very healthy in your old age, I think. Yeah.
By the way, being in running the health category for 4 years, I wasn't as healthy in my mindset before that. You're just reading health, so much of health every day that it kind of gets ingrained. But
Yeah.
no, dark chocolate, not necessarily because of health reasons. Yes, that helps, but I just love having dark chocolate more than having the non-dark version.
Okay. So next question is, tell me your favorite television show.
So many, it's unfair but if I keep coming back to one, it would be Breaking Bad.
I gave up after the first season. I admire you for having gone through all the seasons, but it's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing show. Yeah,
Breaking
agreed.
Bad is amazing. The other one is Robot, which is a lot around the world of hacking. That was amazing. Several actually. And over time, I've started enjoying a lot of different things. I wouldn't enjoy some of the lighter stuff as much earlier. But the one that I recently finished is called Kim's Convenience, a really cool show about a Korean family running a department store in Canada. Really fun, light, and tells you how similar all of us are.
Oh, it's amazing, the way OTT has opened up global
Amazing.
content to all of us. We go from Denmark to London, like you said, to Russia, to Paris, and we are every night we're in a different city, different stories. So great.
Recently, by the way, if you haven't caught up, recently totally smitten by Malayalam movies on.
Oh yeah. I'm a big Malayalam movie fan. Yeah, especially
Amazing.
I'm a big fan of this Fahad Fasil,
Fahd
who's
Fazil.
completely.
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of Fahd Fazil.
He is. I'm waiting for a new movie of his to come, but I am a raving fan of his. He goes mad in every movie. Everyone waits for him to go mad. So it's
Joji
awesome.
is
Yeah.
my current favorite.
Joji is of course based on Shakespearean
Macbeth.
Macbeth. But again, he's a madman. I mean, he's
Absolutely. I mean, the
so
kind of
good,
risks he takes is just amazing.
so good. And now the last question. Before that, I have one more. Is your favorite device, electronic device?
ThinkPad. And
ThinkPad.
and
Okay.
no plug there.
Okay.
Absolutely a ThinkPad.
Okay. ThinkPad. Good. And so, lastly, before we close, some final advice to young marketing professionals who are watching this show.
Only one, and I think it's over a period of time, and partly maybe marketeers are to be blamed for it. That there is this notion that marketing is fluff, and I just want people to know and believe, and especially those who are in business schools, that it is anything but fluff. Yes, you talk about it being art and the combination of art and science, but it's a very difficult discipline. It takes years to hone one's craft, and I believe maybe, and I've not even got started. It's just a long journey that you've got to commit to, and just stay curious.
Great. So Amit, thank you very much for joining us. In fact, what you said reminded me of a very famous Journal of Marketing article, which said pretty much what you're saying. The title was very sensational. It said, "Will you let your daughter marry a marketing man?" And it questioned this, that you think all marketing men are full of fluff, but actually
Hmm.
they actually work very hard, and therefore actually they're pretty decent people. So thank you very much for holding the flag up for marketing. Thank you for joining me. This is Ambi Parmeshwaran signing off on the show. Be positive on etbrandequity.com. So Amit Doshi, on behalf of all of us, thank you very much for joining us and for your wonderful insights. Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Ambi.